Today we're going to build our watercolor skills and make something really special with these vintage-inspired holiday cards. Hey friends, what's up? Welcome back. My name is Shayda, and today we are making holiday cards together. This is one of my favorite things to do, and it's actually how the channel started, one of my early videos. So grab some cards. I use these little dollar store sets, and then I just cut watercolor paper to fit on the card. Do not paint directly on cardstock. It will not work, not with watercolors anyway. Grab a small brush and then a set of watercolor paints. I'm using my Muño 48 pan set, but you could use anything you like. And we're going to develop a color palette to start with. Now I get a lot of questions about how I mix my pinks, so here it is, the definitive pink. I start with this peach color. I believe the official name is Jaune Brilliant. And then I mix in cool pink. So with a clean wet brush, you're scrubbing that cake of pink paint, bring the pigment over, mix it with that peachy tone, mix in lots of water, and then we're also going to mix in a little bit of white. I like to mix white into my watercolors. It just gives me that beautiful pastel. So mix those three colors until you're happy with the outcome. Test it out on some paper and play around with pinks until you get one that you like. We'll also use like a kind of a gold color. So I'm mixing brown with yellow umber, and I'm going to also mix a little white into this actually, because the theme of my Christmas card is going to be kind of vintagey. So what I want to develop is a really striking color palette, as well as a couple flowers that I'll go back to. And then the idea here is that we can paint a bunch of different cards, all of them a little different, so you don't get bored making 10 handmade cards, but they're all, within a theme. You'll see what I mean in a sec. So I'm also mixing up green. Now for the green, I am starting with sap green. So I'm scrubbing that cake of paint with my clean brush. Then I rinse the brush and I'm going to bring this darker green over. This is deep phthalo green, and we're going to mix that with the sap to give us this rich, dark but not too dark green. And then I also have that same deep phthalo green, and what I'm going to do here is rinse my brush and mix a little purple into the green. I really like the way that purple darkens green, and that will give us a beautiful color to use for the pine that we're going to paint. So we're testing the colors on a scrap piece of paper. It's always good to try your mix ahead of time. Make sure the colors look good together. Do you like the way they look? You don't have to use the same exact colors as I do. Just a thoughtful color palette is so key. Want to print my holiday card? Sign up now on Patreon. It's a great way to support the channel and get weekly bonus content like card prints and extra videos. So painting prep, step 1, develop a color palette. Painting prep, step 2, practice the flowers that you're going to use. So let's pick up a bit of that pink, and our first flower is very simple. It's got 4 or 5 petals. You just paint it one petal at a time, perfectly imperfect. I've got lots of videos about that. And then the second flower is a simple rose. So here we go, again with the light pink. You're going to make kind of a small spiral, and then let those brush strokes get slightly larger. Then I'm going to put a little extra water in the pink, and with that watery, transparent color, I'm going to make these even larger brush strokes, these large semicircular brush strokes, and that's our simple rose. If watercolor has become your new favorite hobby in 2020, I have a watercolor e-course that goes over all the basics and will get you painting with confidence. It's going to be on sale this month for Black Friday, so check it out now on my website and think about doing some Black Friday shopping. Now let's grab this gold. I love this. This is what's going to give the card that vintagey look. And for this one, we're going to do these small leaves. So drag that belly of the brush across the page and use the tip of the brush to paint the delicate branches. You can also add a few little dots in the center of the flower to represent the stamen. And then I'm going to pick up a little of that green, that really dark green, and we'll try painting a little pine sprig. So I start with a curving line and then just do all these little tiny lines coming off. And then you could leave it at that, or you can also do these little V shapes kind of intersecting, and that gives a really cutesy and delicate pine branch. You could also try painting some leaves in that really dark green color, but I think for the most part, I'll paint my leaves using the other more grassy green. So that's basically it. That's my color palette and my floral theme developed. So now you can paint 5, 10 Christmas cards. All of them look really well designed, which is great for the receiver of the card, but all of them are a little different, and that keeps it fresh and fun for the painter of this card, which is you. Okay, so here's my first one. I just quickly wrote Merry and Bright right in the center of the card, just in a really simple print. And then what I'm going to do, I would call corners. We're going to paint a little floral motif in the top left and the bottom right. So just enough flowers to, make the letters really pop, make the message really pop. And I think you can see how this is already coming together, but I've got a dedicated color palette. I know exactly which floral shapes I'm going to paint. And that, again, it just makes the design of the card really easy, but it also looks really thoughtful because you have put a lot of thought in when you did the prep. So there's our first corner coming together. I often flip my stuff upside down. It's easy to pull the brush towards me. Now I'm going to place some flowers down here. So let's start with a rose, since we didn't do the rose in the upper corner. But that's pretty much it. I think this might be my favorite card. I think I started with my favorite. It just is so striking, doing the big, simple print message, and I'll do that in black watercolor afterwards, after the flowers are all dry. And it has a really vintagey look, which I like, and I've chosen quite a vintage-esque color palette. So yeah, so that's done. It's that simple. We'll set that aside and let it dry, and let's do our second one. I think this one also is a classic Shayda concept, and that is a wreath. It's always fun to paint a wreath, and a wreath is a great beginner watercolor practice because you just draw an oval in pencil, and then you don't have to think about the kind of the floral design. You just go around, follow that circle. It does the work for you. So what I'm doing here is, again, starting with pink, and I'll place a bunch of flowers at different spots along the wreath. I'm making some large flowers, some really small flowers. You can see some of the small pink flowers are really just, little brush strokes. There's nothing much to them, but they look cute. And then I'll come in with this grassy green, and I'll start adding some leaves. I'll also add branches to make the entire wreath flow and come together. Once that's done, I'm going to grab that really dark green and do some small and some medium-sized evergreen sprigs. Remember, if you don't have a dark green in your palette, try mixing the green that you do have with a color like purple. It darkens it beautifully, but you could also try brown or navy blue. We'll take our gold and we'll add some detail, some really simple, messy detail on the center of each flower to make a stamen. And then, of course, we're doing our tiny little gold leaves. This is for me when the whole vintage vibe really comes out, is this gold color. It is just a mix of like an umber and some brown and a little bit of white. And these small leaves also help to add a size contrast to the piece. We don't want everything to be the same size. You want some large flowers, flowers, small leaves, large leaves, you get it. Okay, so our wreath is done. It's very perfectly imperfect, but I love it. So we'll put those two aside. You can see how they're the same but different. So you've got a great design concept, but you don't get bored painting like 1,000 Christmas cards or holiday cards. So let's do our third one together. This one is a little bit more labor intensive, but I think it is quite pretty. What I'm doing here is I've put the little piece of 4x6 cardstock on top of my scrap paper, and I'm going to fill the entire top of that card with flowers. So I'm going to paint right off the side of the page to give me this really kind of muddled, big burst of flowers look, and then we'll leave a space at the bottom to put our holiday message. So I'm doing the same formula. I start with the pink flowers, then I come in with this grassy green. If you don't have a natural green, try mixing green, the green that you do have, with a bit of red or brown, and that will help give you a nice kind of like an olive green if your set doesn't have an olive green. And then of course, once the green is done, I am grabbing that really, really dark color and we're doing the pine sprigs. I'm doing them really messy on this one. I just don't want to take the time to add those little extra bits. We're just keeping it simple, moving along. If you're gonna paint a ton of Christmas cards, you can't, fuss over the details. At a certain point, I was like, I do need a few more pink flowers. I hadn't put quite enough, so we'll add a couple more of those. And then the gold, you guys are like, okay, we get it. That's the process. You just go one color at a time. Keep the details simple. Think about a contrast of size. Don't make all the leaves and flowers the same size. It just won't look organic and natural. And I'm just basically filling in. I don't need to fill every last bit of negative space. You want a bit of page showing through, but we do want it to look quite tight, this burst of beautiful florals. So that's coming together. I'm just placing a few more pine sprigs here, and then I'm having a few leaves sort of come down towards the bottom of the page, and that beautifully frames our holiday message. So that one is done. Actually, they're all done. Painting process complete. We've got 3 beautiful cards that were really fun to paint because I wasn't doing the same thing over and over again, except I kind of was. You probably already guessed this, but all that remains is to add a nice message to each card, whatever you're celebrating this year. There is space on each for that holiday message, something joyful and cute. I did mostly just simple print. I did, which one did I do in cursive? The Happy Holidays, I wrote holidays in cursive, but otherwise I kept it really simple. And the Merry and Bright I did do with a tiny watercolor brush and a bit of dark paint. So that's it though. Use a fine liner, keep it simple. If you're not comfortable with your hand lettering, it doesn't have to be anything special, anything fancy. Well, they're gonna be special, but anyways, you get the point. Remember, patrons, you can print my Merry and Bright card and send that out to your family. You don't even have to paint them. Head over to Patreon after today's video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.